This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point. Kia ora, everyone. I'd like to welcome today to the podcast Sam Bridgewater. He is the co-founder and director of the Pure Food Co. And we've got you in to chat today about yourself, your journey, the company that you're building. Simplicity invests in your company, so we have a real interest in your success. Hi, Sam. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me on board, Jennie, and thanks to Team Simplicity too.
So for anyone that doesn't know what the Pure Food Co. is, could you give us like a quick introduction to what you do?
Yeah, sure. We're a Nutritech company. The mission of the company is to nourish the world's seniors, and the product system that we've created, we largely sell through aged and healthcare. At the core of what we do, we want to make sure that people really enjoy their eating or their drinking experience, but that those experiences are supercharged with the best nutrition.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself first, your background?
Yeah, sure. Well, I am an ex-banker.
I didn't know that.
Worked around the world in the banking space, and about 13 years ago, myself and my co-founder Maya had our experience with my stepfather, and we decided that we'd go out and try and make a little bit of change.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? What happened to you and your family was really what set you off on this whole journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mark, my stepfather, was going through a cancer journey, and it was pretty tough to watch. It was a period of time over a number of years where he wanted good food, he needed good nutrition, but the problem was the food wasn't nutritious enough, and the nutrition tasted pretty average and came in the form of little bottles of warm liquid. And so we could see what he was going through. We could see what Mum was really struggling with, and we thought, let's try and create foods that he could actually enjoy that had all of the nutrients that he needed. At that stage, we didn't understand the significance of the issue and the depth at which that issue ran, but we thought we would try and solve the problem that was facing my family.
So I actually have a really similar story in my own family with my own father's illness, and both my parents are medical professionals, so they were really aware that nutrition was important, but they weren't able to get the nutritional food that my dad was able to take, and I really do think that affected his health. But my family didn't go, oh, this is a problem, I know how to solve it. But what made a banker think maybe we can solve it on a bigger scale?
Yeah, there was probably a certain level of naivety there for myself and Maya. As we went out, we wanted to truly understand, A, how big a problem is this, and B, what are people doing? When we actually got out there and we saw what people were getting, and it wasn't the fault of care providers, it wasn't that they didn't care, they just didn't have the ability to make great looking and great tasting food that was also safe. I mean, one of the drivers for me, and I actually keep this on my desk, but this is a photo of what was served at my grandfather's rest home.
It's very beige, isn't it?
Yeah.
And nondescript, mushy things.
Yeah, and it's just about the ability and the technology and the expertise to be able to create these things.
If I put that in front of my 7-year-old, she would be disgusted and would probably push it back. At that age, you're very clear about what you will and won't eat, but I imagine at some of these care facilities, people don't have the ability to say, no, I don't like the look of that, thank you. So they're just, getting these meals day after day after day.
I think so. And, just like when we go to a restaurant, we want to look down at something and see something that, that we're proud to eat, that looks really appetizing. There's so many sensory elements to that appeal.
Yeah, you really
element.
Eat with your eyes as well, don't you?
Yeah, eat with your eyes, and that's the start to consuming more of that meal that's on the plate, and all those flow-on effects to getting a better meal and getting a better nutritional intake. When we started doing the digging and understanding what people were doing, it was often in the shadows. We were finding out that they were having way less than optimal meal experiences, but then getting less than optimal nutrition into their bodies, and then those outcomes that come with poor nutrition were just accepted as just a normal part of aging. The traditional approach was supplements and medical approach, and everyone knows that, food's just such an important part of our day. It's an important part of people's cultures and the way that they integrate with their families and their communities and the like. So we wanted to try and solve it through good food.
I'd not thought about that before, but how if you have an illness or maybe you're aging and you feel a bit isolated from your family's normal life, and then you don't even get to sit at the table with them to eat because you're just taking your supplements or your nutritional drinks and things, how that would exacerbate an already really difficult problem.
Yeah, that was a real driver to try and make some change in the space.
So when you've seen the problem in real life in your own family, and you've talked to a few people and discovered that actually it's quite a more widespread problem than you might have thought, what do you do then? You're a banker, you just said. I'm pretty sure you haven't made many highly nutritious meals for old people before. Like, what's the first step?
We had some pretty wild and wacky ideas as to how we wanted to approach it. We started assembling a team of brilliant people, not just food professionals, chefs and the like, but also the science of food and nutrition as well. Really smart dietetic expertise, engineers. We needed to also be able to create these foods at scale. At the end of the day, Maya and I had commercial experience, and we knew that budgets and the like were extremely tight. We needed to be able to create something that would work at scale for healthcare and aged care providers. We started assembling these teams of brilliant people, and people who were passionate about doing something crazy because no one was doing it. People were telling us at the time that you couldn't do what you wanted to do. So that was great. That just drove us faster. And I think doing it down here in New Zealand, where we can be a little bit isolated sometimes, it gives us the ability to take an approach of unconstrained thinking. When we started getting this food out to the world, in the end we found out that actually we had created something that was just a little bit wild, a little bit wacky. It didn't necessarily conform with the traditional norms.
I was just wondering, going back, did you find all the expertise that you needed in New Zealand? So these engineers and the dietitians, nutritionists, do we have that expertise that you were able to draw on here?
We do, although what we were trying to do was globally new. We've got machines and ways of doing things that we've stitched together from technology all around the world, and it's not been done before in these markets. So we're constantly learning. We really needed to embed a culture of design thinking and prototyping, failing, learning from that failure as we've tried to continue to innovate over this now, 12-year journey.
Yeah. So that would have been one of the big challenges, was that you were stepping into the unknown. There was data about what the problem was, but not so much about the solution. Yeah.
For sure.
And did that require a certain amount of patience? What was the real challenge at that point?
Maya and I are relatively impatient people in terms of we could see the problem really needed to be solved yesterday. We actually think malnutrition in our elderly population is one of the biggest social problems of a generation. So naturally we had a certain level of impatience to want to and to try and solve that fast. We were, though, also very aware that bringing something new into organisations and industries and the like that hadn't seen a huge amount of innovation in the food space and the nutrition space and that food technology space, we knew we'd have to be able to back up what we said and did with some really good outcome data. And I think that has been one of the reasons why we've grown to where we have today. In New Zealand, we provide to 4 out of 5 aged care homes, so that's 80% of the whole market, and every public hospital. We wouldn't have got there if we couldn't show that the business case stacks up as well. But they also needed to know that it's going to be really sustainable for the business as well. So in the background, we created a system that supported the integration of the food system into care homes and the like to help their residents. But we actually crunch data and we actually look at some of the outcomes as well to show them that we can create better meals that have that weigh less heavily on the organisation as well and create better outcomes. We think it's a win-win, and that's why all the large networks have come across to the Pure solution.
So that's cool. You're obviously very widespread in the market now, but who were your initial guinea pigs then to kind of get that data so that you could go out and sell this amazing product? Who wasn't just your stepfather, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You must have had a bigger group than that.
No, absolutely. There were some great places here in Auckland, New Zealand, that were close by that we could go in and do work with and very quickly iterate what we needed to do next. And was this working? Was this not? There's a little place called Seadrome out in West Auckland, which has been awesome and very close to us for a long time, Rest Haven down in the Waikato. And then early on, the global caterers like Compass came on board, and some of the leaders, we've got some great aged care providers in New Zealand, and Ryman, to name one, came on board very early. The uptake of the Pure solution in the market has been immense, and it's also allowed us to start doing work with some providers like Uniting in Australia, who have done some case studies and put us up for some awards as well on those case study outcome data, which has been some great partners.
Yeah, I saw that you'd won a Food Innovation Award recently, and you're also up for the EY Entrepreneurs of the Year, which is very cool. You must know you're on the right track if you kind of the awards are starting to roll in. And so when you moved into Australia, am I right in thinking so Ryman, you were working with them here in New Zealand, and then they're an international company, so they're like, great, can we start to... Was that your in to the Australia market?
In Australia, the care providers and residents and families face exactly the same problems. Of course, we had to make sure that we tweaked and twisted and turned a solution to make sure they're really fit for businesses and the like over there. But Ryman was certainly one of our early customers. Uniting New South Wales has been a great customer, and we did a pilot that's recently gone up for, been made a finalist for the Future of Ageing Awards. Some of the data in that and some of the outcomes were incredible. They saw, when we started the program, they saw 72% of the resident cohort gained weight or maintained weight, and that's really important in these vulnerable residents that we're thinking about and talking about, and the regulator is really focused on ensuring that we control malnutrition, weight loss being one of those key factors. But another one of the key challenges that is faced by care providers is falls, so residents falling over, as well as pressure injuries and wounds. And in that program, 100% of the wounds in the sample set either improved or healed. So really cool local data in Australia to be able to show Australian care providers that this food system really works in our environment, and to be able to get that raised up and create awareness with these awards programs is cool. You
said earlier when we were chatting that older people need the same amount of protein as elite athletes. Why is that? Why do older people need that amount of protein?
There's a couple of factors, and they come with aging. One of the reasons is the factors that people face around mood or their teeth, in some cases dysphagia and the like, and sometimes loneliness can impact the level of consumption of food or beverage that a senior is consuming. They might have wounds, they might be in a dementia part of an organisation, and they're expending a lot of energy. These things come together to have this effect of requiring more protein alongside the physiological factor of, as we age, we get less efficient at processing protein. So they're consuming less, needing more. And so really core to what we do is still create great tasting food, but with, in many cases, multiples of the level of protein that would be found in the equivalent regular food. So to give you an example, a floret of our broccoli compared to a regular piece of broccoli can have about 3 times the protein in it.
So how do you ensure that the meals that you're providing to the elderly are not only nutritionally adequate, but also enjoyable for them?
Yeah, we've tried to build a culture within our innovation across our organisation where we connect deeply with the consumers who are eating our meals as well as our customers. So, of course, speaking and working on palatability and sensory elements with chefs serving the meals, but the residents and patients consuming them. At the end of the day, clean plates is absolutely critical, and that can be a really strong indication. So, I mean, if we could just walk into dining rooms and see endless clean plates, we'd be pretty happy that we're helping make a difference for those residents and those people consuming the food, but also the care providers who are looking after them.
Yeah. So it's sort of the same for parents, right? Like a room full of clean plates after the evening meal, you feel pretty happy. For you, it's a slightly bigger scale, but yeah.
Absolutely.
This is a good place to slight tangent because we don't have any of the food here, but to paint a little picture of the way you've created this food, it's really brightly coloured, and so it's mostly soft or pureed food, but it's shaped often like the thing that it is. So there's this really kind of emotional and fun aspect to the food that you're creating. Did you start there? Did you always know you wanted to create food that looked like that? Or was that something, talking to people, you realised there had to be the kind of the fun factor, the enjoyment factor?
Yeah, no, we didn't start there, but it was only about 4 or 5 years ago, after many years of work, that we came out with the shaped texture modified foods. And those were all about just creating a beautiful meal that stimulated appetite when it came out. It's a modular system, so chefs and kitchens can create 4,500 meals out of just being able to pick and choose the chicken or the fish today, the broccoli or the carrots, being able to pull these things together. But that care product, which we're very proud of and is being utilised, well, in many places, but New Zealand, Australia and France.
Well, let's talk about France then, because so you've started in New Zealand, moved fairly quickly into Australia, and now you're moving into Europe via France. Firstly, is the problem the same across the world? Because I know that senior people have different roles to play in different societies and different countries, and I wonder if that affects their nutrition and sort of the way they sit within a family or whether they're in a care facility. Have you found differences across the world, and then why France?
Yeah.
So that's 2 questions.
Absolutely. I mean, the models of care can differ, particularly in some of the Asian countries where people may stay at home for longer and have, be much closer to the family meal times and the like, but still physiologically they're going through the same sort of things as anyone around the world. So it can change. France was really appealing to us because it's the home of food, right?
I know, I'm a bit scared for you because you're going to the country that everyone thinks of has the highest standard of food.
Absolutely, and that was that caused some sleepless nights. We were waiting for the first tasting with us French chefs, and when they said très bien, we thought that's great. That's a good start. But what really appealed, we were actually, the inquiries came in from around the world, and we went over to France to understand what the problem was. The problem was very much the same. Many of the French care providers weren't happy with the standard that they were providing, and they hadn't seen technology like this to be able to deliver that better experience. France as well has some very, very large care aged care networks, and some of the ones that we have begun working with have hundreds and hundreds of care sites and homes right around the country. And I think one of the most important factors in France, they truly understand food and the experience, and it's a really important part of the culture. But they also really understand that connection between a great meal and some of those outcomes, the wellness, what great food can do for your physical health, your mental health and the like as well. So that's really working to our advantage over there in France. And the guys are really just starting to get into their work over there.
Yeah, cool. Are you learning some new things from that sort of bigger market and things that's sort of feeding some change or improvements?
Oh, massively. It's been awesome firstly, we've learned how to texture modify a croissant, so that's an exciting thing. I should have brought some today.
Yeah, next visit.
But yeah, we're really developing into a global organisation and trying to be really smart around how we bring global insight in and centralise and share information to continue to grow out our global solution and our global innovation. So yeah, there are a number of things that we're learning, whether it's our education platform that helps our care providers both inspire and educate the people that work for them, through to our data analysis, how we're actually looking at some of the clinical outcomes and how we're working with the providers to deliver proof that these meals are actually having an impact on their residents and the people that they care for.
As I mentioned, Simplicity actually is an investor of Pure Food Co. So we have a real interest in your growth and success. And so what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. France is a beachhead. It's our launch pad. We have to be very careful that we focus intently on what's right in front of us and then move out in a very structured way. But absolutely, Germany up through Benelux, there's so many opportunities over there where people want good food and they need that great nutrition. So we see that as Europe as a whole has been a real opportunity for Pure's future. I think one of the other things that really excites us as well is people in their own homes. There are so many people out there in the community that just need a little bit of help. They need a boost to their daily nutrition. My mum and dad are two of them, and they want things in a different way to the generation above them. So we see real opportunity there. It's been cool to get the institutional investment and all the members that within Simplicity that are backing us along the way. It feels great to have you guys behind us. It's awesome.
Awesome. The meals that aren't just for the care homes, but the other things that you're talking about, we're an ageing population, right? So there's a big cohort of people over 65, but also we're living for longer and we're living well for longer. So people are staying in work for longer. They might not retire as young as they used to, staying at home as well. So that feels like quite a big opportunity there. Are there some other challenges that are facing us around that ageing population?
Yeah, well, I think that's the big one. The healthcare systems around the world just cannot deal with the demographic changes without truly embracing technology. Mm. And with these generations that really starting to understand that my health is my wealth, what we put into our bodies, and both the technology that we create, whether it's food technology, whether it's digital technology or things that help people stay connected and the like in their own homes. There's so much more of a focus in the space, and it will help people stay in their own homes, and maybe it'll change the way that we care for people, for our families and the like as we come through. But it'll also alleviate some of those really major concerns for for our healthcare systems that will struggle under the weight of an ageing population if we don't do things earlier about that.
Yeah, that prevention, thinking about these things early while you're still well, 100%. Nourishing yourself is all really important.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about is the global food production system accounts for something like a third of all greenhouse emissions. So it's something that there's a lot of focus on at the moment. Does sustainability and the environment kind of play a role in how you do things?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it guides everything that we do. At the very core of what we do, we want to make the safest meals that get consumed for people. And I think the thing that we are most proud about is the reduction in food waste. When someone has a meal like that I've shown you earlier versus one of our meals, they consume about 40% more of our meals. Food waste is such a massive part of global waste, and so if we are reducing that, we think we're doing a pretty good thing in that space.
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't thought about the waste side of things. So going back to a more personal side of things, how does this feel for you? You started this company, I think, in 2013, so you're 11 years in. Looking back, what do you think are some of the highlights when you look back over the last 10 years?
We were not sure whether anyone would be nutty enough to join us on our mission. The teams that we've built in France, in Australia, and in New Zealand are just these incredible people that are super passionate about making a difference in this space. We're proud of the fact that we've created and built these teams that really care about the generations above them. But also the impact. We're well on our way to providing 10 million meals, experiences per annum. And when you get out there and you see, and it might be a little note or some feedback or someone saying, this has just changed Jack, my husband's, his whole outlook on life because he's eating again. I think that's the piece that we're super proud of. We don't stop and look back, and we're always thinking about how we solve this problem faster, but let's reflect on what we have done. And so we're proud, and awards like that, it feels like we're getting the credit for it, but really it's been that whole team effort.
It's quite cool that you're kind of holding in balance those individual stories of a family or a husband, and also the kind of scale that you want to reach, the scale of the problem, and how much good you can do. I told you that also about 15, 20 years ago, my father faced a similar problem, and obviously I have no entrepreneurial spirit at all because I just thought, oh, this is so hard, and I didn't think, wow, maybe I could go out there and do something about this. But there are lots of people with your entrepreneurial spirit. What sort of advice would you give people that are at the beginning of their journey?
Oh, there's so many things, and it was very confusing for me at the start and still nowadays because there's always so much information out there. But I think it was about listening to people, but not listening too much. There were people that said we couldn't do it, and I think that was important. 100% knowing that it's more about what you say no to, because you have to retain that absolute focus. And just that what I was alluding to earlier around that unconstrained thinking, I think we've got this little chip on our shoulder in New Zealand. Someone up in the big parts of the world will be doing it better. Well, actually, often we do take our things up there and we realise that we've created something, used our isolation down in New Zealand and Australia to a certain extent as well. We've actually created something that is globally really innovative. So I would encourage people to just use that. If from day one they want to create something that has a global impact, then you really have to be thinking about that. You have to be thinking about your business model and the innovation in that space. But use our competitive advantage of being down here and being slightly away from the world to unconstrained thinking and just think big. Take it up there and make sure that it fits and make sure you deliver value. And that's if you're doing that, then I think you're going to have relative success in other markets.
Have you still got any of that unconstrained thinking yourselves, or now that you're doing it, does it start to get, because there must be loads of regulations and stuff in the sector that you're working in, or can you still think big? I mean, croissant, I'm excited to try that next time you come in. What's the next thing that you're going to make more widely accessible to people?
Yeah, no, there's some pretty regular drinks and foods that have coming through, and key for us has been trying to retain a culture that promotes, champions innovation, promotes that big thinking and the like. So yes, we've got a bit more structure that comes with, getting a little bit bigger and how you manage risk and the like. But at the end of the day, I think people are within the team and our innovation space and the like, we're trying to promote big thinking and doing things that haven't been done before in this food and this nutritech space. So yeah, I think culture at the end of the day is pretty important to help that.
Cool. So we can expect some exciting things from you guys in the future.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in to chat to me and the Simplicity listeners. Maybe you could bring some samples in next time. So thanks, Sam.
No, thanks, Jennie. And we're very appreciative of the backing that we've got from Simplicity and the members. So we look forward to continuing the journey together.
Cool. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website, simplicity.kiwi.